minutes. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Barbara Lotti, gynecologist of WeFIV. Let me introduce Yesica Méndez, managing partner of our clinic.
Yes, we are recording right now, and well,
yes,
we're going to share these.
Yes, I would like to tell you before that as Yesica said, we are recording this presentation, and this is all anonymous. This presentation will be available for you the next day in the platform of My IVF Answers and in the YouTube channel, so it's going to be available for you. Now we are going to share our presentation.
Yes. Just a few minutes. Here.
Well, perfect. As you know, we are going to share with you this presentation about egg donation for My IVF Answers by the European Fertility Society. I want to talk about egg donation at WeFIV here in Argentina in order to know about the process. I'm in charge of the medical part of the treatment. Yesica is in charge of the administrative and other things in the treatment, so you can ask us questions at the finish of this presentation, at the end of the presentation. As you know, our clinic is called WeFIV. This is a picture of our clinic. We are a specialized clinic in assisted reproduction with more than 15 years of experience in Argentina. And we are very keen on personalized fertility treatments because we think that it's the more important thing for our patients. So I'm going to share with you a video about our country and our clinic.
Argentina, Buenos Aires, one of those authentic, modern, and legendary cities, magnet of passions and tango allure for its mysterious, romantic, and infinite corners. This is where WeFIV is located, a clinic that since 2008 has been entirely dedicated to helping people from all over the world to achieve their desire to have a baby. It is one of the leading fertility clinics in Argentina, a center specializing in highly complex cases in which, under the leadership of Dr. Fernando Buscola, more than 70 professionals cooperate in the development of more than 1,000 treatments a year, with a single objective: to achieve a healthy baby. Using the best technology and applying the latest scientific advances in the development of its treatments are the basic principles on which WeFIV is based. In this sense, it has the most advanced incubation technology in the world, EmbryoScope, which combined with artificial intelligence systems, EV score, violet, and magenta, for the analysis and the best selection of eggs and embryos. It also applies, on a regular basis, pre-implantation genetic tests, which, in addition to increasing the probability of successful treatment, prevent the appearance of diseases in the future baby. Its facilities, consisting of spacious living rooms, bedrooms, an operating theater, a large laboratory, and various analysis and workrooms, are designed with the aim of harmonizing the different stages of in vitro fertilization treatment with the need to provide our patients with a relaxed and pleasant experience. Experience and results that, in the future, in the distance, when remembering us, will only produce one thought. With WeFIV, I did it right.
So this is a video about us, about our clinic. And I would like to share with you that we have different mission, vision, and values that make our everyday work to have sense and to do the best thing for our patients. So that's the way we work. We work with technology, with investigation, and doing specialized treatment for our patients. In this opportunity, we are going to talk about egg donation program. As you know, egg donation have different indications. Most of the common ones are advanced maternal age and diminished ovarian reserve, but there are different situations. For example, patients who had several unsuccessful IVF treatments, maybe that's a possibility to go to an egg donation program to improve their results and the possibility of a baby at home. Some situations related with hereditary genetic abnormalities in women and the risk of transmitting that abnormalities to the newborn, so the possibility of an egg donation decrease that risk for the patients. And some situations, for example, absence of ovaries in some conditions which require the surgery and the patient have no ovarian reserve, and the egg donation is the possibility to be a mother. Another situations that are more common in the actuality, like transgender women. So with these indications, we can perform an egg donation program and a treatment in Argentina, and there are some important things about the law here in Argentina that make this kind of treatments available. This is a process which is anonymous. It means that the intended parents doesn't know who is the donor, and it's the same for the donor with the intended parents. It is called that it's an altruist treatment, but there is an economic compensation for the donor. So they are the most important things about the law here in Argentina, so that the egg donation is a legal treatment in assisted reproductive medicine in Argentina. What is the situation for foreign patients at WeFIV? As you know, in these cases, patients are abroad, as you are, so we have the possibility to begin the evaluation of the patients with online medical consultations, where we are going to take into account about the medical history of the patients. We are going to check medical exams that the patient could have done in a previous treatment or in another clinic, and we are going to ask for the missing exams that we could be needing for the treatment here in WeFIV. While we are doing all this process of the medical evaluation, the medical studies, we can begin with the donor selection. As you know, this selection has two things that are very important. It's the phenotypic and the genetic matching. This is what we use to select the donor to perform the ovarian stimulation for the treatment of some intended parents. So we are going to talk about this point in another slide in order to give you more information about the different possibilities here in the clinic. Once we have the donor selected, we are going to organize the treatment, the ICSI, for the IVF process. So we are going to need the semen sample to do the treatment. In the case that we are working with a donor semen sample, we are going to organize the shipping of the sample. In the case that we have the couple with the possibility to come to Argentina, we are going to organize a trip to our country for the semen sample. And in case that you need to ship the semen sample, there is no problem, and we can coordinate that process for you. Once we have performed the IVF, the ICSI, we are going to check the embryo development. I'm going to talk with you about some things that are important in order to have better in terms of number of blastocysts for the treatment. And the possibility to perform the PGT. As you know, this is a preimplantational genetic test that gives us information about the euploidy of the embryos in order to transfer an euploid embryo with normal chromosomes. And after that, of course, the embryo transfers, and at that point, we need to be here in Buenos Aires. We can perform part of the endometrial preparation while the patient is abroad, and the last part of that preparation we prefer to perform here in Argentina in order to be at least 1 week here in the country. Talking about the donors, we have some requirements for a woman to be an egg donor, and it's related with age, medical and gynecological evaluation, psychological evaluation, and genetic testing. We have a department here in the clinic specialized in all this process, checking about the results of the studies asked for the donor, a psychologist in our team working with the donors, and once we have all these results, we are in condition to organize an ovarian stimulation in order to have the oocytes for the treatment. In this point, I want to share with you that we have two possibilities here in the clinic. We have our bank of eggs that is called WeBank, and we have another possibility that it's called Singularity, and I'm going to give you some information about both of them. In the case of WeBank, I'm going to share with you this demo. This demo is like we have a website with the information of WeBank and the information of Singularity. We work with the patients in order to give you all the information about how to use this web, and you can select the donor by this way, putting all the requirements that are important for you to give us all the information that we need to select the donor. So I'm going to share with you this demo. This demo is like we work with you, giving all the instructions to create an account, to create a password, and to go through this web to analyze the different options that we have. The idea is that at this moment you are performing studies and you are at the same time working on the donor selection in order to diminish the time of all the process. That's the idea. So at this web you can see pictures of the donor, and you will be putting some phenotypical characteristics in order to select different types of characteristics that we have to take into account in order to have different profiles to analyze. The idea is once that you have put and complete all these items, we'll be giving you some profiles that you will be taking in a PDF mode in order to analyze some things related with the phenotypical characteristics of the donor, their parents, and some things in relation with the personality of the donor, abilities, hobbies, and some information about the personal life of the egg donor. So as you know, you have all the information in the web, also administrative things about the treatment, so you can put everything here. No, this is a demo, so you will be with us working on this. And at the end of this, we'll be having, I'm going to show you now, a profile of an egg donor of WeBank. So as I told you, we'll be having an egg donor with a code, because here in Argentina this process is anonymous. You will be having physical characteristics, a photograph of the donor, general characteristics about her and her family, and then you will be having some things about the personality, the character, interests, strengths, weaknesses, so things in order to know a bit more about the donor and not only phenotypical characteristics. With these profiles, you will be in condition to select a donor, and something that we perform here in WeFIV in order to check the genetic matching with the donor is a study that it's called a genetic compatibility test, that it's a test that checks recessive diseases in people. So we are going to check the recessive diseases in the donor, and we are going to match that result with the owner of the semen sample. It is possible with bank or with the husband of our patient. So the other possibility is Singularity. What is Singularity? Singularity is an agency that guides you through the donor search and selection process. We tell you your desires and help you make them a reality. So it's a more personalized process of selecting the donor. So why would you choose Singularity? Because you will be the protagonist in this journey, steering it with your preferences and forming a true connection with your donor. So in this kind of situation, you are going to be more involucrated and you are going to know more about the donor. And there are different requirements to be a donor of this program. With Singularity donors, you will have access to academic profile, health history, family and genetic background, and audiovisual materials of the donor. So you will be more connected with the person, and maybe you will be feel more comfortable with all that information. I'm going to share with you a demo of Singularity. It's a similar process that WeBank. You have our web available, so you have to create an account and a password in order to have all the information, and you can go through the web in order to read about all the possibilities that we have. You have to complete some forms, and that's what we need to give you the possibility and the access to the account. So once you have it, you will be entering to our web. So you will be completing all the steps. You will be with guide of us in all this process, of course. but you will be familiar with them very soon. So once you have completed all these things, you will be able to go through our web and to put the characteristics that you consider important for you in order to give us all the information and to prepare the selection that you are looking for. So as you know, you have a lot of details in order to put all the phenotypical characteristics, and you can go through each profile in order to see photos and to give more information to you about the donor and her life. After you are going through the web, you will be receiving the profiles also in a PDF mode. I'm going to share you a profile of Singularity. It has more information than WeFIV profiles. So I'm going to share this with you. This is an example of a Singularity profile. As you know, there is a lot of information. The idea is not to read all these things, but as you know, we will be having information about the donor, a lot of photographs about the donor, something that she shared with us to know about her life, interest, and it's very, very extended information about all these things, medical history, and about family. Mother, father, grandmother, grandfather. So you have the background of the donor and her family in order to select what is more comfortable for you. So talking about the timeline, that is something important in fertility treatments and more important when you are not in Argentina, what we have to take into account is that we are going to have our first consultation. After that, as I told you, we'll be performing or checking your exams. And at the same moment, we can begin with the donor selection. Once we have selected the donor, we have two possibilities to go through the treatment: to use vitrified oocytes and to perform an ovarian stimulation in the donor. So it depends on the selection that you are doing and the conditions that we have with that donor. Maybe we have vitrified oocytes, maybe not, but we are going to organize an ovarian stimulation. So we are going to define the movement of the semen sample once we have decided the donor and in what situation we are. Once we organize the semen sample, we are going to perform the ICSI, the IVF. So at that moment, we have two things that are very important in order to improve our results. And it's the technology in the lab, in a reproductive lab, the embryoscope and the PGTA. What is the embryoscope? It's a type of incubator that we use. We give us better results in order to the number of blastocysts that we have and the implantation rate. So they are very important in order to be more successful in our treatments. And the PGTA, as I told you, it's the study for the embryos to check the euploidy of the embryo. So once we have these results, we can select an embryo to perform an embryo transfer. If we have to think about the time since we begin with the first consultation to the embryo transfer, we have to think that we can be taking from 1.5 months to 3 months if we need more time for the donor selection, because it's important to know that sometimes you need to see more than 1, 2, or 3 profiles, and you need more time to do that selection, and we will be with you in all that process in order to be sure of what you are choosing to go on with the treatment. So the time, it's related with what we need, especially for the donor selection and the coordination of the IVF movement. Also, if we need to ship a semen sample, we have some process here in Argentina and the country of origin of the semen sample to organize in order to be able to receive that sample. But everything is going to be organized with us here in the clinic. As I told you, we have 2 things that are very important in order to have better results in our lab. One is the embryoscope. The embryoscope is a specialized incubator that checks the embryos in a continuous way. So we have a lot of information without taking out the embryos of the incubators, so it's more stable for the embryo development, and we have more information. Associated with this time-lapse technology, it adds artificial intelligence, so we'll be having some scores at the final of the embryo development to choose the better embryo for the embryo transfer. As you can see here, this is what the biologist can analyze of the embryo development since the fertility moment until the stage of blastocyst. So it's like a film of the embryo, so they can analyze second by second what is happening with the embryo. This is different of the incubators that we used in the past, where you have to check at different moments of different dates and you have like a photograph. This is like a film. So it's a more complete the evaluation that we can perform nowadays, and it's important for the IVF results, of course. Once we have this, we are going to perform the PGT, the biopsy for the PGT test. So it is performed in the stage of blastocyst, and I'm going to share with you at the end of this video a video about how a biologist can perform a biopsy. So as you can see in this video, this is a video of the moment of the biopsy. This technique is very common nowadays around the world, and it's a very sure technique for the embryo. And the result is very important because we can check the ploidy of the embryo in order to transfer an euploid embryo with normal chromosomes. So what we do is to have some cells of the blastocyst, and that cells are going to be analyzed in order to check the chromosomes and in order to transfer an euploid embryo. Once we have that result, the PGT result, we are going to analyze the normal embryos with the score that we obtain by the embryoscope in order to perform and to select the embryo for the first embryo transfer of the patient. So that's the moment of the biopsy, as you can see. And the embryo is going to be cryopreserved by the vitrification technique after the biopsy until we have the PGT result. I'm sorry. Okay. So what about the results? Something very important in all the fertility treatments that we perform. We have to share with you these results of our clinic in a period from 2019 and 2021. The cumulative pregnancy rate after 3 embryo transfer is 95, almost 96%. So you have this picture. So as you can see, after the first attempt, the first embryo transfer of the patient, we have almost 63% of pregnancy rate. With the second embryo transfer, almost 86%, and after the third embryo transfer, almost 96%. So the possibility of pregnancy is very, very high in egg donation program. So the idea of this webinar now is to answer you all the questions that you have. I have some questions that I think that are very common in patients, so maybe I can give you, to show you these questions, I give you the answers, while you can write all your questions in the chat, and Yesica and I will be here to read that questions and to give you all the answers. One of the most common questions is how long does it take from the first consultation to the embryo transfer? As I told you before, it depends on the donor selection and the logistic of all the treatment in the cases of patients who are living abroad, because if we have to organize a trip to Argentina, if we have to organize the shipment of a semen sample, we are going to be with you working on that in order to do it possible for you. No, maybe we are in condition to go on with the treatment, but you can organize the trip here 1 month later. There is no problem. You have to think that if you have to perform studies, maybe you need 1 month for the studies, and then will be in order to organize the process. That's why I always suggest to begin with the donor selection while you are performing the studies, in order to make all the time shorter. Once we have organized the IVF moment, you have to think that the embryo development takes more or less 5 to 6 days to have a blastocyst. That's where we perform the PGT, the biopsy for the study. And the result of the PGT takes more or less 20 days. Once we receive that result, we are in conditions to organize the embryo transfer. And an endometrial preparation for the embryo transfer takes more or less 20 days. So that's the different steps of the treatment and the time that you have to consider in every one of these steps. Another question is if you need to have some studies before the first consultation. Not necessarily. Maybe if it's the first time that you are in contact with reproductive medicine, if you haven't performed any treatment before, you are not going to have studies. We don't need studies for the first consultation because we are going to talk with you, we are going to analyze your medical history, and we are going to decide what studies do you need related with the treatment you are going to do. Now, in the case of egg donation, we need some studies of the partner in order to go on with the treatment. If you have previous studies, some studies are going to be okay for us because we don't need to repeat all the studies. Some of them have sometimes to be in order to be useful for the treatment, but some studies are okay for us. So we are going to analyze what you have. We always ask the patients to give us all the previous studies. We analyze them, the dates of that studies, and we decide if we need more or not. Another question that is very common in egg donation programs is if the results are the same with vitrified and with fresh oocytes. So what does it mean if we have vitrified oocytes, or if we need to perform an ovarian stimulation in the donor, and maybe we are going to organize the movement of the semen sample for the ICSI with the ovarian puncture of the donor. So the results in terms of number of blastocysts, implantation rate, pregnancy rate are the same. We decide one or the other in relation with the organization of the treatment. The more common situation in the world is to have vitrified oocytes because it gives us, and for the patients, more flexibility in terms of time, organization of trips, and all that kind of things. So it's very common for us to work with vitrified oocytes, but sometimes because of the donor selection and that process, and if we don't have that oocytes in our bank, we are going to perform an ovarian stimulation and to have fresh oocytes with the possibility to perform the IVF at that moment. So I think that it was my last question. So thanks for this moment with us. We are going to check if you have been writing.
Yes.
Yes. So we are going to, okay.
I will read them.
Yes, perfect.
So Gabriela says, does your clinic have an Argentine, an age limit, sorry, for the woman?
Yes, we have an age limit that is 50 years. So before the 50 years of the woman, we are able to go with the treatments. There is another question.
Yes, thank you. Ains, is surrogacy legal in Argentina?
Argentina has a particular situation. Nowadays, there is not a law for surrogacy. There was some situation here in IVI Buenos Aires where we are placed that it was possible to perform, but last year there was some situation that put it into analysis. So nowadays we don't know if there are some clinics performing or not surrogacy, but the situation is in revision. So in our case, we are not going with surrogacy treatments for the moment, and we don't know what the law is going to decide here, and maybe it's going to take more time to have an answer about that.
Then the next question, what kind of guarantees do you have with certain packages? For example, minimum 1 euploid or 3 blastocysts, etc. How much do they cost?
Yeah, maybe it's more for Yesica that question.
Okay, so we have some, the cost of the treatment depends on the package you choose. You have from 6 oocytes to 12 oocytes, and the cost would be in a range from $6,000 to $12,000 approximately. And regarding the guarantees, we have a specific treatment that is called egg donation nest, but there are some characteristics about the couple in the sperm sample and in the medical records of the patient who is receiving that embryo, and well, that's everything regarding this question.
Yes, but we have programs with guarantee, but we talk about that with the patients because of that, because there are some medical situations that allow us to go on and to offer this kind of treatment to the patients.
And then Natasha asks, not sure if I misunderstood, but wait. But why is ovarian stimulation required if I have a donor egg?
Yes. Now, the ovarian stimulation is required if we need to perform the stimulation in the egg donor. Yes, because as I told you, the tendency in the wire is to work with vitrified oocytes. That's why we have a bank of eggs. But sometimes we need to perform an ovarian stimulation. So we talk about that with the patients because we need more time, of course, because you have to think that an ovarian stimulation takes more or less 12 days, 12 to 15 days. So if we need to perform the ovarian stimulation, the donor is going to undergo that ovarian stimulation, and after that we are going to have that eggs with the possibility to do the IVF, the ICSI, with fresh oocytes, if it is possible, of course, or we are going to vitrify that oocytes for the patient, and then we are going to organize the moment of the ICSI when the patients are available to be here in Argentina, for example.
And I think we have no more questions.
I think that, yes, this is another question. How much does surrogacy cost in average? Well, we are not performing surrogacy. And also in PGTA, do you allow gender reveal? Okay, in that situation, as you know, the PGT analyzes all the chromosomes, so of course we are going to know the gender of the embryo. We always suggest people to transfer the better embryo. No? As I told you, the EmbryoScope gives us a score to select the better embryo for the embryo transfer. Of course, that we analyze this situation with every patient, and sometimes there is the possibility to have very similar embryos, one female and male, so we decide with the patients in that situation. So yes, there is the possibility to know the gender of the embryo. And that's what we need. It's okay. So let us check if we have some more questions. No, I think that we have no more questions. So I don't know if you want to.
If you have any further questions, you can forward them to our team, and we will get back to you as soon as we can.
Yes, at the end of the slide, there were two emails. One of was my email, and the other was Alejandro email. You can contact us. We work with international patients, so you can contact us, and we give you all the answers that you need.
Yes, and this video will be available tomorrow in case you want to see it again. So that's it.
Yes, I think so. Well,
thank you everyone for joining.
Yes, thank you very much. And well, we are here to give you all the answers that you need.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Good evening.